Let me say hello to everyone that is joining us on this call for the General Baptist State Convention. This particular lecture I've entitled is Rethinking Missions Post-Pandemic. I believe the actual title of the convention has given for it is Breaking the Glass Ceiling. What I hope to do is to share some information with you today that I think will be impactful and helpful, but also what I hope that we can do before the end of our times is enter in some discussion and some dialogue about what I'm about to share. So with that said, let's get started. The worldwide pandemic caused by COVID-19 has completely changed our world. Even with vaccines widely available, because of political and religious differences about vaccines, many persons in America have chosen not to get vaccinated, and third world countries have a limited supply of vaccines. Whereas good people can differ about the way forward, what is clear is that we will be living under a new normal for some time to come. Millions of Americans are choosing not to return to their previous employment if remote work is not an option. The pandemic has made persons question choices they have made about balance between work and family in ways not witnessed in more than a generation. These views about work and family also have a bearing on the work of the church as well. More parishioners may choose to become a part of a virtual congregation that worships online and look for connections with groups that share their interests about faith virtually as well. The pandemic has also revealed the glowing disparities that exist in so many communities. Health disparities, educational achievement gaps, affordable housing disparities, food deserts, just to name a few. The current crisis provides a prime opportunity for the church to demonstrate its worth to the community and the broader world by pointing a way forward that unites instead of divides, that creates mutual opportunities for success, and that meets needs as a witness to Christian faith. What I want to share with you are some ways now that every church can explore, pray about, and perhaps mobilize around to be a difference maker in this moment, but it will require a rethinking of missions. And what I want to focus primarily on is one particular area at this point because of our time gaps. The single greatest thing that churches can do in this moment is build key partnerships with other groups within the community to help meet basic needs. Collaboration is now critical to the work that needs to be done in this moment. The General Baptist State Convention has served as a critical partner to churches during the pandemic, providing vital information about how churches could participate in the many government funds available through the CARES Act. General Baptist Convention has also worked with the Lilly Foundation and the AME Zion denomination to help provide grants to churches addressing food insecurity. The convention continues to be a source of support through webcast, email, and Zoom calls to ensure that churches are aware of the resources that can help them in their mission. The General Baptist Convention is working to provide best practices in ministry, where church leaders learn and possibly implement in their setting. President Lynch and Executive Secretary Barr are to be commended in the way the General Baptist is meeting this moment. And now I want to provide some examples of community partners and how they can be difference makers in missions. A critical partner for our ministry at First Baptist Church West has been the County Health Department. Prior to the pandemic, a group of clergy across denomination lines came together in our community to create what we call Village Heartbeat, Inc. Village Heartbeat consists of churches that have agreed to work on public health issues to combat chronic disease, such as hypertension, diabetes, and obesity. The model requires a congregational health assessment where we obtain baseline data on members of the congregation. And then each church has a team that participates in a healthy challenge competition for 16 weeks. The competition includes exercise classes that vary based on age and ability, weekly information provided about things persons can do to change their lifestyle, from eating habits, food preparation, support group, and fellowship opportunities. The model was so successful in improving the quality of life and combating chronic disease, it received a national award. Once the pandemic came, we leaned on our partners to get COVID testing and vaccines in our community. Because of the success of our partnership, other partners came to us wanting to partner as well. African American churches in Mecklenburg County were some of the first to have remote COVID testing done, as well as vaccines performed anywhere in the state because of this partnership. Currently, we are partnering with Atrium Health and Novant Health to continue to address chronic disease and COVID, but we're now expanding the model to address issues of mental health through a statewide grant. Every community has a health department that is responsible for the public health issues within that community. I implore you to ask to meet with the health director in your community and request support to combat the health disparities that your members face. When they do this work, they're not doing it to you as a favor, they're doing it as a part of their job requirement. Churches have space and people, and public health needs access to both to fulfill their mission. The pandemic has made healthcare providers aware of their need for trusted community partners to have access and to provide resources in target areas. And this clearly can be a mission that the church can embrace. One word of caution: be careful of labs and testing centers that are now coming to underserved communities as a result of the pandemic. Some of them are searching out Black churches to use as staging areas for their work and have been willing to pay a small fee for the church use of the church's parking lot or other space. However, what they take away is all of the data that they have collected on persons who use their resources and then monetize that data to apply for grants or to acquire additional government funding without compensating the church or the people whose information they have obtained. If you choose to work with this group or any group, please have data sharing agreements in place that states whatever data they collect, if it is used for any purposes beyond the services provided during the current visit, that data must be shared equally with the church and requires a release from the church before going to a third party. One of the big things that has made news recently is Facebook's use of selling data to third parties as the means of gathering additional funding. There's no place that this happens more than in the area of healthcare services. And oftentimes African Americans and other minorities are placed in a disadvantaged position because we are unaware that this is happening, and we do not know how to create data sharing agreements so that we might be able to benefit from the data that we provide. So one critical potential mission partner for you, particularly post-pandemic, is working with your local county health department. A second critical partner for us has been the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, commonly referred to as DPI. Through a state grant with the Department of Public Instruction, we have created an innovative after-school program that combines academics and fine arts. Young children are paired with a teacher to help them with homework and to provide foundational instruction in math, literacy, and science. Our after-school also provides critical instruction, as well as students are able to see themselves and learn about their history as well. Students are also given musical instruction in piano, violin, and brass. This instruction is critical because music has been removed from most elementary and middle schools curriculums because of the General Assembly's refusal to fully fund the educational budget. Students are also given an opportunity to participate in dance and art as well. This well-rounded program has resulted in improved academic scores, increased student confidence, and has gained parent participation. Most students in the program come from high poverty schools, but many of them enrolled in the program pass their state end of grade test. Today, the program is 45% Hispanic in its enrollment, and it's allowed us to make inroads with the immigrant population. Those inroads were valuable during the Trump presidency and the ICE raids that were taking place in the community. Persons saw us as trusted partners and places where their children would be safe and came for us for further assistance. Given the dismal performance of public education as it relates to children of color, churches can play an important role in supplementing the school day with additional instruction that is targeted with lower teacher to student ratios. Our after-school program also ensures that students receive a hot meal after school with a balanced diet. A healthy nutritional meal helps children to focus, improves brain health, eliminates brain fog, and reduces childhood obesity. Most churches have retired educators in their congregation, or there are retired educators that live within the community of the church, and those persons could be resources to assist in helping with this mission. A third possible partner are local city governments. Cities receive block grants to address a number of city concerns, from violence intervention, neighborhood improvement, and housing. The St. Paul Baptist Church, under the leadership of Dr. Robert Charles Scott, has provided a blueprint of what churches can do to address the affordable housing crisis many communities face. St. Paul made the existing land they had available in a fast gentrifying community to build affordable housing. The church literally gave up his parking lot in order to house people. $17 million of housing was provided through a partnership between St. Paul, the city of Charlotte, and Laurel Street Development. The program was a mix of senior apartments, duplexes, and townhomes, where the average resident made 60% of the average median income. The success of the St. Paul project has led Mayfield Memorial, led by Dr. Peter Weary, to seek to duplicate the model through a partnership with Charlotte Housing Partnership, a nonprofit that uses public and private funds to build affordable housing. Through a grant with the city, our church, through the Charlotte Community Service Agency, ran the largest gang intervention program in Mecklenburg County and received a national award for best practices and innovation by the United States Justice Department. In this program, young men in the criminal justice system were referred to us through court counselors, law enforcement, and the school system. Through participating in an evidence-based program that addressed decision-making, anger management, life skills assessment, and financial literacy, through 10 weeks, put them on a different course. Exercises were performed in team building to help create trust in others and to develop healthy bonds. Less than 10% of the young men who completed the program had further issues with the justice system while participating in the program. A fourth possible partner are professional groups and organizations within the community. Working with the Black Pilot Association, we were able to offer classes in flight instruction for teen boys and girls. Young people spent time on flight simulators, learned the science of flight, took field trips to airports, the Air National Guard, flew on a C-90 transport plane, met fire and rescue personnel at the airport and air traffic control. At the end of the course, each student flew a single-engine Cessna plane, performing takeoff and landing. Currently, we're teaching young people how to use drones and prepare flight plans. And then finally, consider the possible partnership opportunities available working with Black farmers. Farmers markets exist in many communities, but their locations and goods rarely serve underserved communities. Churches could partner with Black farmers to provide a market for their goods, as well as create an opportunity for Black youth to learn about agriculture. We are losing a wealth of Black knowledge about the land and food as each generation moves farther away from the land. These partnerships could be critical in maintaining this knowledge in the Black community. Moreover, it could create conversations that could lead to the next generation of Black-owned small businesses. As more and more farmers are pivoting away from tobacco as the cash crop for many years in North Carolina. There are new opportunities that are emerging in hemp, but far too many African-American farmers that are willing to participate in that emerging market. Pulling together Black farmers and Black youth could be the next generational entrepreneurship opportunity available. The possible partnerships that could help the church with its mission are vast in every community. And every community has someone that they can partner to help improve the quality of life in their community. What is important to remember is that when the church engages in this work, that it is done as a means of bearing witness. This is not done to make money. This is not done to build a brand. This is not done to position oneself to run for public office. This is about responding to Matthew 25. I was hungry, and you fed me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. I was sick, and you came to see me. The pandemic has forced us out of our places of comfort and caused us to make the church the salt and light it was always intended to be, serving not ourselves, but others in the name that is above every name, even Jesus, our living Lord and our soon coming King. And with that, I'll pause to see if I can engage in some questions that anyone might have on our approach toward partnership, or would be interested if there are others that are already doing partnerships within their community.
If you have any questions, you can click the reaction button, raise your hand, and I can unmute you, or you can just unmute yourself.
I see a message here that please repeat the list. Is that to repeat the list of partnerships? Is that the question? Okay, yeah. First one is your county health department. Particularly given that we're in a pandemic with COVID, and though it seems to be abating somewhat, there are other health disparities within our community other than just COVID. I mentioned chronic disease as one of the primary things that impacts African-American community, chronic disease being classified as hypertension, obesity, and diabetes. Doing things that will help reduce persons' A1C number, lower blood pressure, all of kinds of things that not only improve quality of life, but literally add and extends a person's life. So the health department is one. Your local county health department. The second one is your State Department of Public Instruction. The State Department of Public Instruction. The State Department of Public Instruction has significant revenue to assist with further education of young people beyond what is being allocated through the school system. Whether those are after-school programs, summer programs, tutorial programs. There is always a pot of money there in which persons can apply for if they meet the criteria. And the State Department of Public Instruction is only one area. The state has a number of areas. One of the things in which we are currently just finished doing was working with the Department of Health and Human Services for the state, and just received word of a mental health grant where we're going to be putting together a program to try to address mental health needs, particularly that have emerged because of the pandemic from isolation and persons being cut off. So the state is always a particular or possible source. And then your city. Every municipal government within the city receives federal dollars through block grants to improve communities and neighborhoods. Finding out what's in those block grants and talking with your elected leaders that represent your communities about what is available and what you might be able to do and what you have interest in doing. One of the things that pains me deeply, we ask far too little of the Black people who represent us, and we don't do enough to hold them accountable. And we see them when it's time for them to run for re-election, and they run by the church, and we tell everybody to go vote for them. But what are they delivering within those communities is always a question I'm asking. So that's an area. And then another critical partner right now are our local hospitals. Hospital systems are now understanding that they have to step up to try to address and work with these communities and help them with these issues of health disparity. One of the major issues throughout the state of North Carolina is infant mortality for minority children. Live birth rates for Black and Hispanic babies is significantly lower than their white counterparts, oftentimes because expectant mothers don't get prenatal care in those communities, have unhealthy diets, and lifestyle issues that sometimes lead to babies not having healthy weights when they're born, or having a list of other complications. And they're not always drug related.
I think we have a question from Ms. Davenport.
Yes, my question is, and I have it in the chat, is there a handout that he can possibly provide if we provide our email addresses?
I'd be happy to.
So would you want us to put our email addresses in the chat?
That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
And we can also get it from Dr. Woods and post it on the General Baptist site.
I've already passed it on to Dr. Barr.
Okay, so he has it, and we'll make sure we get it up again.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, my name is Helen Featherson. I'm a member of White Rock Baptist Church in Durham.
Yes, ma'am.
I wonder if
used to be in Durham, familiar.
okay. I wonder if I'm sorry.
Pastor Reginald Stevens. We've been longtime friends.
Okay. I wonder if you all have done anything with those who are incarcerated. Our church, a number of years ago, started a program of providing backpacks for those who were released from jail, because we found that normally they're given big black plastic bags. And so that's a project that we took on. And we also, from time to time, provide batteries for the various things that the detainees have that uses batteries. And of course, we provided some recording devices and so forth to help them. So I just wondered if you've done anything with them.
We have not. There is a group, Exodus Foundation, local group led by Reverend Dr. Madeline Sadler, who seeks to address issues related to reentry. We have assisted and partnered with her on several of her efforts, but we as a church have not made that particular effort a focus for us. Our primary focus has been on addressing health disparities and trying to do something about the academic achievement gap for children of color in our community.
We have
Thank
Dr.
you.
Scott. Oh, Dr. Scott, you have your hand up.
Good morning, Dr. Woods, and
Hey,
thank you.
Dr. Scott, how are you, sir?
I'm well. Thank you for your presentation, and good morning to my GBSC family. Dr. Woods, can you kind of give insight to the fact that no one church can do it all?
Absolutely.
Share as far as this group is concerned, wherever people find their lane, because there's so much that needs to be done that no one church can do it all. And unfortunately, many people think that the local church should do everything. But I've even had to help St. Paul to understand there's certain things we're not just going to commit our energy to because we just can't.
Yeah. Great question, Dr. Scott. I cannot stress to you the importance of rethinking mission, not as something that you do as a local church, but that which you do in collaboration with others. There is strength in partnerships. And I give you the great example that we did here, going back to, I talked about our Village Heartbeat Inc., St. Paul, and Pastor Scott is a part of that group. And about 12 clergy came together out of that group and met with the senior leadership of the hospital system and mapped out ways in which they could come onto our campuses to do COVID testing and later vaccines. That was not something that one church tried to do. We got a bunch of us together. We identified who had the best locations in different zip codes to ensure that it was spread out throughout the community. That way we were able to deliver what the community needed. So collaborations are critical. You cannot do it all by yourself. Find folk who want to do this work with you and collaborate with them.
Okay, Sister Potts.
Good morning. I'm Bernadette Potts with Oak Ridge First Baptist Church here in Oak Ridge, North Carolina, under the leadership of Dr. James A. Webster. And I sure will. I just wanted to maybe just put out there for our churches a good organization to reach out to for collaboration would be your local crisis pregnancy centers, because they are Christian organizations. They provide free of charge for women, young women and older women. I've volunteered for them for many years, and you have a widespread age group. And it's not only the women, but it's also sometimes boyfriends or husbands. But they provide free ultrasounds. They provide free classes, workshops on parenting. And also, they also give like baby clothes and baby equipment, furniture. And they're under the leadership of actual doctors, OBGYNs, and they have nurses working in the pregnancy centers. So they are very well equipped. And on top of that, their main thrust is to share Christ, not only in deed, but also in word. Because when we do the intakes with our clients, we ask them about their relationship with God. We don't force them into that, but we do open up that avenue to begin that discourse about Christ. And so that, and just on my experience and the level where I'm at in Greensboro, I don't see a lot of Black churches supporting these crisis pregnancy centers. And the other thing that they do, of course, is let people know, or let the young ladies know that are in these crisis pregnancies, that you do have another option. Abortion is not the option you have to choose. But they, you know, they even partner with adoption agencies and so forth to let people know that there is another option, because abortion is a pandemic that has been running through our communities at a very high level, and that we rarely see addressed even in our churches. And a lot of times young ladies choose that because they are too afraid to come to us because of the way that sometimes we react to them. So I'm going to get off my soapbox, but I did want to put that out there as a community partnership that we need to start looking at with our churches. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Dr. Woods, there's a question in the chat section. What observations or changes, if any, did you see in missions relief to the post-pandemic?
Collaborations. I mean, that is the biggest thing. There is a willingness now for city, county, and state government, as well as other nonprofits, to partner with churches around these shared mission challenges in ways that I don't think that was there prior to the pandemic. I think you had spots where it was working, but they're actually now really looking for churches. A great example of that is I was not aware of a faith call that the governor and the director, Manny Cohn of HSS, had on a regular basis with clergy to talk about health disparities and ways in which they could work with the government to try to address some of those things. So that's the big issue. There's far more opportunities for collaboration and an openness and resources that are available that were not available prior to.
Any other questions or comments? We still have about 35 minutes or so left.
We don't have to use all of it if we don't need it.
Right. No, we don't have to. But if you have any questions for Dr. Woods or anything you all would like to share, it's be a great time.
I'm just going to say this and just in passing, Dr. Woods has been here in Charlotte, oh gosh, almost 30 years, and has done a tremendous work at the First Baptist Church West. And I've been here, this is my 5th year, and he has been a more than helpful guide as far as helping me to plug into the landscape. And you got to be willing to forge those partnerships. I will say, in lieu of the question that was asked earlier about the shift as far as missions are concerned post-pandemic, it's going to be needed more. And we're going to find ourselves, as far as the post-pandemic is concerned, not necessarily being able to do a lot of in-person things that we normally have done, but because we're now in what is called the phygital age, we got to really help our churches to embrace technology in a very, very meaningful way to get information out to our communities, because the pandemic has, in a sense, kind of limited access due to the spread. And until that spread is mitigated, we're going to be doing a whole lot of this for a long time, but we can make the best use of it as well.
Thank you, Dr. Scott.
Hey, Dr. Woods. This is Dr.
How are
Thorpe. Again, thank you for that clarification regarding the missions. Could you talk about or describe the interaction with, you mentioned the collaborations. What was the interaction like with the other agencies or resources?
Well, the first thing I would say to you, if you're going to have these conversations with people, you need to go into it knowing what you're talking about. That's first and foremost. So when we sit down and start talking with the county health department and talking with the hospital system, we went in with some facts. For instance, we knew going in that there was little to no testing being done in underserved communities. When the testing was initially being done, there was some testing done on the south side and then out at the racetrack. And neither one of those locations were where underserved African-American Hispanic communities were. And it was beginning to grow rapidly. And so we informed them, you are a public entity, we're taxpayers. Our expectation is that you're going to provide resources in the places where these people live. Don't tell us you don't have a place to come, because we're offering in our churches. And the other thing is, as Dr. Scott can attest to, they were blown away when they showed up at the response from the community. We had gone out and told them, look, we have delivered this service. We need you to come. And they were overwhelmed. When we started doing testing, the testing actually started, I'm gonna say 9:30. They showed up at 7 o'clock to start setting up. And there were people had been out there since 3 o'clock that morning.
Yeah.
They were on the way. And the same thing with vaccines.
Yeah.
They vaccinated more people at African-American churches than they did anywhere else in the county.
Yeah.
So you got to know what you're talking about. And then the other part of that is you got to prove that you can deliver. And once you do that, then they will come to the table and say, okay, what do you need? That led to us having a meeting with the CEO of Atrium Health and us looking him straight in the face saying, okay, we need $50,000 for marketing to put on our website and to tell folk about where they can come to receive resources to make sure that that site is getting served. And you need to pay for it because we have delivered these people. They sent us a check. So that's the huge part of it. And that's not just as it relates with the health department, same thing with education. If you're going to be doing after school programs, you got to know, okay, what is the condition of school? What's happening with these kids? What are the numbers telling you? And then how are you proving that, or how are you going to prove that you can change that tide? Or at least you can take those students and succeed with them. And then once you do that, you sit and say, hey, how is it I'm taking the same kids from the school that you got that's failing, and these are the same kids, not another set of kids, and they're doing well over here.
Thank you, Doctor.
Good morning. This is Linwood Fitz. How can we access the handouts again, please?
They'll be on the Joint Baptist site. I've already mailed those to
Okay.
to the convention, so they'll put them up and they'll be on the site.
Okay, thank you.
I see a question in the chat. Aside from the involvement with the Black Farmers Program, what are some areas where youth can be agents, ambassadors, and serving where they are the ones doing a service rather than a recipient? Oh, great question. We have kids that participated in our after-school program because we go K through 8, who are now in high school, they are now assistants in the program now. They help teachers, they help teach and instruct the younger kids about the culture in terms of what's expected of them. They are wonderful, wonderful ambassadors for us, and we pay them. They're not doing this just as a volunteer. We want to show them that if you're committed to doing what is asked of you and do good work, then there are people who will always be willing to pay you for that. So we don't ask them to volunteer their time. We tell them, okay, here's your job description. Here's what you're supposed to do. Here's how you're supposed to interact with kids. You're supposed to show up on time. You're supposed to look a certain way and conduct yourself a certain way and make yourself available to assist the teachers, walk students to the lunchroom, pass out the laptops, whatever that is. And at the end of the week, you get a check, because that's how the world operates. So we don't expect them to do this free.